prison is a university of crime. And I'd met people in prison in the 90s and ended up getting drawn into smuggling on the continent and involved and immersed in that fucking world.
Right.
In Spain and France.
And what was that? Was that drugs or was that people? Or?
No, we were smuggling drugs. We were smuggling cannabis. They'd been at it for a long time, and we wasn't doing big quantities. But the profits were big. Do you remember when they used to do that, when the European football started up again in the 90s after the Heist Stadium? Right. They used to send like 10 coaches from a football ground when they were playing abroad. Right. So you would have someone go on the coach, you would go out 2 days before, collect the parcel from a runner from Holland, give it to the person at the football ground, he gets back on the coach.
Right.
The worst that's ever going to happen is you lose the parcel. As they used to come through customs, you got 10 coaches full of pissed up English football fans. They get them on the fucking, no one's going to fit. So, and
that's
if
probably
they did,
a genius move. I've never heard of that before.
Mate, and it worked. I wasn't the brains, but I was integral in the part because you never wanted the jockey coming from Holland to meet the person you were giving it to. Right. So I would meet them, be in an F1 hotel for 2 days, give it to the person at the football ground or at one of the hypermarkets, City de Europe or something. And so we bought back, we beat them up 2 key of Coke, 30 key of Puff. Right. 4 key of Coke. I think the maximum we done was 6 key. And but
what's that in monetary terms? Was that?
Well, at the time, Puff was like 2,400 a key, right? And they were getting it up from Spain and up from Holland, paying £800-900. So you're doubling your money, right. But he was doing it regular. All different. There was many different ways it was done, for the hypermarkets, the day trips. Do you remember people going over on the booze runs and everything? They couldn't physically search or spin everyone. And because we were using the coaches, the parcel goes on the coach. Now, if they come on and spin that coach and go, who owns this? You're not going to go, yes, it's mine, are you? I walk around that City de Europe. I've done it for about a year, 18 months. I used to walk around that City de Europe, a paper bag with 2 baguette sticking out of it, 2 Belgian biscuit tins with like 4 key of Coke, 2 key of Coke, walking about the fucking hypermarket, I think they must have started to recognise me and I was only a fucking baguette man or something. Who goes to looking back, who goes there walking around, I've just come away from France to buy a couple of fucking baguettes, but that was the reality. And I'd meet the day trip, I'd give it to him, he'd come back. The coach hasn't been to a drug producing country, it's been to France. They're not looking for that. They're looking for people coming from Holland, Spain, places like that. And that's how I ended up in the end getting drawn into the people smuggling, which was unintentional. It was unintentional, not something I ever wanted to get involved in. We'd got involved with a firm from Eastern Europe, the people I worked with. I played an integral part. I wasn't the main man, but they put me down as being the main man. Right. And that's how I got involved in that. And I ended up, someone was supposed to meet us and drive a lorry up from a place called Vermars on the outskirts of Paris. Now it's supposed to be cannabis and cigarettes. There was supposed to be a big consignment of cigarettes in there. So there's a lot of money in smuggling cigarettes back then. Turns out it was people. I never knew. I drove the lorry up because the person who was supposed to be there never turned up. So I've drove it up from a place called Vermars up to a place called Coquel, and got nicked for being knowingly concerned of facilitation, that's what they call it, of aiding 30 people into the UK who were Eastern Europeans. This is before the days of open borders. There were people trying to preempt it in 2000. Yeah, and that's how I became the most wanted man bit for a while.
So what happened? So where did that come from, Ray? Where did that start?
The most wanted man bit. Yeah. Well, what happened is, I wasn't in the best place mentally at the time. Again, I don't want to give it a large. I wasn't in the best place mentally. In crime, you use, you abuse, you use and abuse. And I'd committed my offence in France. Now, what happened is, I know this now after the event. It's all, the whole firm we were working with from Eastern Europe were under surveillance. Now, I still believe to this day that the security services were involved in it because this was a big thing, smuggling people and whatever else. And right the way back then, it was like, it happens all the time now, but back then it wasn't common knowledge. And you could be bringing anyone in, couldn't you? So I believe the security service was involved because when I went to court for it, I asked for the covert surveillance. This is why I knew we had covert surveillance, because they mentioned Vermars. Now, I'd never made no statement. So how did they know about it for miles? So it was under surveillance from day dot. So what happened is I'm arrested in France, just outside Coquel. I should be tried in France.
Right.
But what they'd done, British Customs kidnapped me. And people go, how the fuck what do you mean you got kidnapped? I was kidnapped by British Customs. British Customs came over and said to the French, we need to make sure his welfare and his rights are being adhered to, so we need to take him to hospital. Now, I think, well, I've got no say in the matter. I'm nicked. I need to go to hospital with these customs. So I go, okay, fine. So I get in a people carrier with 4 British Customs. They don't take me to hospital. They drive me into the UK control zone and say, you're now in English territory, you're under arrest, and fucking deport me back to Great Britain. And I haven't committed an offence in Great Britain. I've committed an offence in France. So I think, this is a fucking liberty, this. But anyway, when I go, they take me to Canterbury Prison. So I'm immediately remanded in custody, charged with it. I think, fuck this, I'm getting out of here. So I got a paper clip, a big pen. I filled it up with jam. I put a paper clip in the end. And when they took me to court, Folkestone Magistrates Court, which is a high security court, is because of all the people who get nicked at the ports or whatever. You get people nicked with big parcels and whatever. It's like what's called a Category A court. You can't just jump the dock and run. It's all glass. You're encased. So I've grabbed the prison officer and held it to his neck and made his mate open the doors, and I f***ed off, and I was on my toes for 5 months, you know.
Right.
And that was the most wanted man bit, you know.
Right.
But yeah.
And when you went on the run, did you have a plan, or did you just literally run? And
not get fucking caught.
But you know, like normally, if you're going to do something like that, you make sure you got somewhere to go. You make sure someone's going to be, because obviously, you know, if you haven't got a plan, you're f***ed, in you. So.
I had little bits of help or whatever. You know, there was some good people around the plot that helped me. Believe it or not, Dave Courtney was one of the people who helped me. After I'd been out a couple of days, Dave had a pub in our area called the Royal Albin. I went down to see Dave, and he gave me a couple £100, and you know, a couple of faces around the plot looked after me. But I didn't have a big bag of money. I wasn't this big gangster, you know, off down to Costa del Sol or something like that. You know, it was only a matter of time before I would either have got fucking stupid and done stupid things again,
right,
or been fucking badly nicked. You know, and I knew I was in a lot of trouble. And the best I could come up with was I need a disguise so I don't get caught. So I nicked a pair of glasses from Specsavers, because I didn't wear glasses at the time. It worked with Clark Kent, didn't it, you know? Yeah. And I was dipping in and out of my area, and it was only a matter of time before I got nicked. Someone gave me a flat in Lewisham. I was staying in a flat in Lewisham, and within 5 months I was nicked, you know? And then when I was nicked, they let me have it. No, cat-ate me straight away, irised me because of the method I'd used to escape. And I was allowed no human contact for a year, kept in total segregation.
Wow.
Yeah, kept in total segregation. Wasn't allowed any human contact because at that time, that was 2000, they thought it was a hypodermic syringe because I made it look like that. It was the first time somebody had done it from a British prison.
Right.
They thought it could be AIDS, could be anything, which it could have done. You know, it was horrible what I'd done, you know, but at the time, again, desperation. Desperate people do desperate things. Right. And I was desperate, you know.
And when you went to court, what was the charges? You obviously people smuggling, but was it some other stuff as well? Was it
no only concern with the facilitation of bringing in 30 people. Then it was obviously escape from lawful custody, and they tried to do me for 30 false imprisonments.
Wow.
They tried to do me for 30 false imprisonments. I was charged with it, 30 times false imprisonments, including the judge at the court. But everyone who was in the court that day, judges, recorders, everyone, technically, by holding that prison officer, I've imprisoned everyone. That was what they tried to do, but it was never going to stick. So in the end, I pleaded guilty to it. So I got 10 years for the people smuggling, which was the maximum anyone had ever got. Because I refused to cooperate. Obviously, they knew I wasn't the main man. That's why British Customs brought me back to the UK, wanted me to cooperate. I refused to cooperate.
There was no loophole because it happened in France. There was no way of...
Nope.
Right.
they said because I was on the outskirts of Coquel and I'd come into the UK control zone, my offence technically had been committed in Britain, but I wasn't arrested in the UK control zone. I was arrested outside the UK control zone. Coquel is like the port side in France, and that is a UK control zone controlled by British Border Force, etc., etc. I wasn't in that place, but by them taking me into it, technically I was. Right. You know, you're never going to win. It's like when I asked for the covert surveillance, because at first I thought, I've got half a case here for duress to say, look, I was being pressured to do this. I had no choice. I got 30, you know, and I thought you'd fight it as you do, you know. But they wouldn't reveal none of the covert surveillance. What they'd done is something called PII, Public Immunity Measures, Public Immunity Protection or whatever, so they couldn't reveal any of the covert surveillance. Now, the only reason they would do that, so it's not available to the defence, is because there's sensitive material in there. Ongoing operation, or it names a grass or something like that. So I had basically no defence. It's the state versus me. I'm going to get guilty, and that's what happened.
Just put your hands up.
You know? But I've done it. You know, listen, I can't cry over spilt milk. You know, I've done it. It's the making of me at the end of the day.